you say, Coach, and then open up for some questions.
Well, good morning, everybody, and I guess we now put kind of the preseason-ish, at least from scrimmage and exhibition, behind us, and move our attention and start to focus on the regular season, which somehow it seems like it takes basketball forever to get here as you go through the spring and the summer and even like September a little bit. And then now it's like, holy cow, slow down just a hair for us. Let us kind of catch up and catch our breath to get ready. But yeah, excited about our group. We're getting a little bit healthier at the right time. So we've had kind of the full complement the last couple days in practice, and that's been nice because we haven't really honestly had that since we got started. So excited about where we are. Still obviously plenty of work to do and lots to talk about when we get in our staff meetings and try to figure it out and work through lineups and personnels and just strengths and weaknesses. And there's a lot of it that you're trying to guess a little bit of what might present itself. And so we're just kind of trying to stay ahead of it to see if we can eliminate some of those things that might get us at some point. But I think from the player side, they're still chomping at the bit to play somebody else and probably in a little bit of the dog days now, and just excited for what's coming here pretty soon. So, yeah, excited for the challenge coming. And we're in a pretty good spot as we are today.
Coach, defense, obviously we know that's a calling card, but every group's a little bit different. So have you figured out what this group does well defensively? Is it any different than last year's group? I mean, you got some players back, but a lot of newcomers. So where are you defensively?
Yeah, I think time will still tell a little bit. We would like to think we still are going to be a dominant defensive team. We're still, as you saw, I guess, in the exhibition, it won't look a whole lot different other than personnel. The structure of it will stay for the most part the same. We are going to have to probably make some tweaks based on the personnel. But we'll kind of wait and see a little bit on that, kind of see how it goes. But I think we're somewhat prepared. Same thing that I was talking about. I think we've got some, ability to change and adapt if we need to there. We're hoping we're a little bit better of a rebounding team. Again, hard to kind of really gauge that when you play just Fairmont just physically doesn't challenge you there. So we were just going over the top and getting some rebounds at times that's not going to be realistic, but really wanting to focus on the rebounding a little bit more on the defensive end. But yeah, we still want to be an elite defensive team. We want to hang our hat on that end and then see if we can't even continue to find ways to be better offensively.
How long does it take for the newcomers to learn what you want defensively? Is that always something in progress, or how does that go?
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress for sure. I think when you December is when new kids probably start to really feel comfortable, sometimes later. But with some of the transfers, they've played a lot of college basketball, so hopefully they do pick it up a little bit earlier. Freshmen sometimes take a little bit longer, so then it may be January, sometimes even later, just kind of depends. But it shouldn't take too long. I feel like we're getting a little bit better when you look at our structure every day in practice. I'm like, okay, we're starting to figure this out a little bit. And each team, from different press breaks and different offenses until we get about halfway through the year and you've seen about everything, but it does get to a point when you get into February, we've probably seen about every press break, and we've seen a bunch of man offenses and zone offenses. So you start to kind of gets a little bit easier at that point, but it'll be a minute.
They got to get through Christmas first, then I guess.
Yeah, Christmas-ish. Yeah, the mental side of that too becomes the grind. But yeah, December, I think, before they're truly, truly comfortable. But I'm starting to see, every day. I just feel like, oh man, our structure, and I know I just used that word, but our structure is starting to look a little bit better every day.
With Sydney Shaw, obviously, since day one, the mission was to get her better defensively, and I think you guys have kind of gotten there. But you're also asking her maybe to step up more offensively now, which has kind of been what natural to her. But so she's becoming more of a complete player. What are you seeing with Sydney, and is she answering the call, I guess, so to speak?
Yeah, so you're saying she wants more shots, right? That's what you're, yeah. No, she does. Yes, she's a very good offensive player. Right. Took a step a year ago. Role will change this year without question. And I say role as in, but scouting reports are going to start with her and Jordan most likely now. Those were our double-figure scores, so there's going to, just be a more awareness and emphasis on her. And so finding ways to be creative offensively, to score it from all three levels. She has the ability to shoot the three. She can pull up at mid-range and looks athletic when she does, continuing to get to the rim at a great rate, to get to the free throw line a little bit. So those are the progressions we want to see from her. We've put the ball in her hands a little bit more and had some point guard duties, and that's a battle, too, that we just talk about a lot also, is like, are we taking away some of her scoring by doing that? Can she still operate as a ball handling person and not get lost in the offensive shuffle? So, just still kind of working through that. Those will be things that will take time, and that's kind of the role definition that I think you have an idea right now, but certainly there's plenty of time still to go to figure out exactly what these roles will look like.
I would think, like, from watching Sydney the other night, or Sydney Woodley and Sydney Shaw, that they're kind of, maybe those are the two players that have an opportunity to really jump out and grab attention that maybe they hadn't previously grabbed, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think there's plenty more than that, to be honest. Those are the two that have been here, and so for you guys that haven't seen the other ones every day in practice, or the newcomers, yes, like Woodley's role should look different, Shaw's role should look different, just being better versions of themselves, being more confident in themselves. If Woodley offensively will stay on the attack like she did against Fairmont and get out in the open floor and, make the occasional three, then that's going to be significant to go with what she can do defensively. And then I know we've talked about Shaw too, and just that role is certainly going to be different. But no, I don't think it's just going to be those two, because Jordan Thomas' role is a returner that needs to look a little bit different, and then we've got all these newcomers who are just still trying to figure it out a little bit, but their roles need to be different when, in places that they came from.
Played 4 games in 11 days to start the season. Can you simulate those turnarounds in the preseason, or is that hard to do?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to do. I mean, you try to do it through your early conditioning and those early September mornings when, at 6:30 when they're in here just running to run, and, and then the style of play probably helps us a little bit be in decent shape just because we get up and down and have to do that a little bit to play the way we do. So I think we're in a good place. We're not going to be in peak, mid-season shape yet, and we can rely on our depth a little bit. But I've thought through the 2 scrimmage kind of exhibitions that we've been pretty good in that area, other than our fouling. So maybe that might have something to do with fatigue. So we're going to have to work on that one.
You know much yet about the scout for Fort Wayne? It looked a little bit on paper. They were good last year. Everybody loses a lot of people, but still.
They
you
did.
Start that scout now?
A little bit. I'll probably start it later today, of course. We do have a coach that's on that one a little bit. So, you do have more time, obviously, when it's the first team to do the little bit of a deep dive. But it's hard, trying to predict who's going to start. And they did lose a lot. They're used to winning, and that's a good thing. And they know how to win. A successful coach, so it's a good program that expects to have a really good year again. I think they finished second in the league a year ago. So in a quality league. So, yeah, we're getting a good opponent right off the bat, and that's exciting for us and our players, and they'll be excited for it. I mean, everybody's excited for opening night, so, I mean, you'd be crazy if you weren't. So I haven't done the deep dive to answer your question. That will start here over the next, probably later today after practice, and then into tomorrow, and then usually, 2-day preps are typically what we do, so like a Saturday, Sunday prep for a Monday game, and then that's the way the league works most of the time, because you're playing on like Wednesday, Saturday, so everything's a 2-day prep, and that will be normal for us, and we'll get going with it, yeah.
Absorbing that scout, again, with newcomers, of course they've played college basketball for the most part, other than one. Is it hard for them to sort of absorb what you want them to absorb right away? Does that take a little while for them to figure out, or have they already figured it out?
Yeah, I mean, they should have an idea of what scattering reports look like. If you've been somewhere, I'm sure it's a little bit different here. We are fairly in depth. We play different defenses. But the hardest part really right now is they're still thinking so much about what we do. Like, you have to be careful overloading them too much within an opponent. As the year goes, and what we do is kind of like, they're playing freely. When we get to January and February, then I'm not so worried about us, and you can probably give them a little more on the scattering report side. So we probably have to condense a little bit more this time of year, put way more emphasis on us, and then just try to, again, you're just guessing on what this team might look like because you don't have a lot of film. So do they play the same way? Will there be the same structure? Have they changed? What do these new transfers look like? How are they going to fit in? So there's a little bit of guesswork, which at the same time, so why sit around and try to guess too much about what they're going to do when you can spend a little more time on yourself?
Was there anything about Riley's game that caught your eye? I mean, like you said, Fairmont, physically not a challenge, but from just the way you saw her play, was there anything that said, oh, we might have something there?
Yeah, the activity on the rebounding for sure, and yeah, we have some length, but I just thought she outworked them, and that translates. So outworking translates to going against size or anything else if you're willing to, to do those things. So she got, I think, 5 defensive rebounds, right? 5 offensive rebounds. So to do it on both ends, that's something we've challenged her with. She's been rebounding a little bit more in practice, but we keep that. And so we have a board, so she's always quick to let me know when she's got some tallies over there every day and that she's putting an emphasis on that. She didn't shoot it as well, I'm sure, as she would have liked. And didn't shoot it from the free throw line or the 3 particularly well, but still found a way to impact offensively, which she's a very good offensive player, has a great skill there. Still challenging her on that defensive end to, and she's doing a good job. But she's very smart, so her IQ gets her most of the time to the right places. So she'll have a big role for us. Yeah, I'm excited.
The scouting report on her was she was a shooter, right? I mean, was her role, I guess, previously.
Yeah, her freshman year, she led the Big East in three-point shooting.
Yeah.
Took a little step back last year. But, yeah, she has the ability to get hot and, can go in streaks, I guess, a little bit. Couldn't quite find it the other night, but she'll have games. She's going to make 4 or 5, probably 6 threes in a game at some point this year, I would imagine, because she does have the ability to do that. She's one of our green light shooters, and we kind of do that. So she's got the green light, and she's open. We don't question it because she has the ability to make those. But, yeah, excited to see and she's versatile. We can play her in multiple positions. So I'm excited for her.
Well, that's her size, right? I mean, she's like, 6'1"?
Yeah, she'll tell you she's 6'2".
Okay.
Not quite sure, but that's what she's going to tell you if you ask her.
So Logan, go ahead.
You mentioned having to be focused on yourself here early in the season with so many new players in new roles and things like that. Does that kind of help not overlook maybe these first couple of opponents when you've got a big name program in Duke, 4 games in? Does that kind of help that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think just the schedule in general is beefed up tremendously. And so, we get a quality IPFW team, and then it goes right to Kent State, who's supposed to win the MAC. So you're going right off the bat. It's like boom, boom, here we go. It's coming at us. Yes, we know Duke's down the line. We don't even talk about that. That doesn't even come up in conversation, to be honest. But just, quality opponents and programs. And it's so much about us right now, though, it's just so much about us. We haven't even hardly thought about a whole lot of other teams, and no disrespect to them. It's just there's so much that we have to do and get in. And, as the head coach, I keep going into work every day like, oh, my gosh, I need this, or I want one more option here, or somebody gets hot. I don't have something to go to them. I need to get that in. But then you can't overload them in that area, too, or we're not any good at the stuff that we have. And so that's the balance right now, is finding, time for us. And then as we get opponents now, how much is too much?
You had said Logan Johnson maybe had a little bit of Kaya in her. Now that you've seen her through the preseason, still a fair assessment? Where is she?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Again, I think it's just going to take a minute for the game to slow down. You can tell, the wheels are turning. And so when the wheels are turning, you're just not quite as explosive, quick as you can be. The good news for, we remember Kaya's senior year, end of the year, when she's just playing as freely as free can play and just running around and doing everything that Kaya was so good at and so invaluable. And so Logan will get there. Maybe not there today, and that's okay. I don't know that I had that expectation, but just wanting her to keep every day, get a little more comfortable. So that athleticism shines through. But I thought she had a pretty good practice. I think it was yesterday, and she was flying around. She can get offensive rebounds, run through passes, getting tips, like those types of things, and then really let her defense kind of lead to what she can do offensively, because she can get downhill. She can get to the rim. You saw it a little bit in the exhibition game. Didn't finish at the rate that she wanted to, but there's some strengths there for sure.
You were talking in the preseason, or at the beginning of the preseason, about how Jordan Harrison has been kind of deferring, trying to build chemistry and that sort of, but that you needed her to, at some point, get more aggressive. I mean, obviously she got in foul trouble the other night, but are you starting to see her kind of take over more like you had wanted?
Yeah, honestly, not overly concerned with Jordan doing that. I feel like she's going to do that. I think she's trying to figure out her teammates and, who to get the ball to, where to get it to. At the same time, as a point guard that wants to score, is how do you pick and choose that? And when do you pick and choose to do those things? And, yeah, she got in a little foul trouble. That, honestly, it was a little bit of foul trouble, but then it was just we got late in the game, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not putting you back in for this at this point. You've played a lot of college basketball games. Let's get all these other kids as many minutes as possible. So that's really what it turned into, was just let all the new players play a little bit more. If you're a returner, I've seen you do it. You've played in that building. You've had success in there, so let's get them as many minutes as possible. So, yeah, I think Jordan's in a good place. I know she'll be excited for Monday and to take the court with her teammates. And, yeah, she's got a big leadership role in front of her, and I think she's relishing that.
You had basically the same starting lineup for all but one game last year. Because it looks like you have some more bench options this year, do you maybe want to evolve that starting five based on matchup, or do you want the five to pretty much be the five?
Well, I think for me, in the ideal world, you find your five and you pretty much stick to it and let roles be defined unless there's injuries, that happen. Obviously, if somebody starts playing better, then you're going to make that change. No, I think our rotation, though, is still completely open at this point, to be honest. I think there's a few that have probably locked in some positions and then some that aren't necessarily locked in. But as we're getting healthier now and able to practice with the full group, there may be some changes to the lineup at some point. But, the veterans have a little more knowledge right now too, and they've been in the program. So, as long as they're playing well, they should get the first crack at it, and then we'll make some adjustments as we get healthier with some of the new kids that start to kind of show their worth, improve their worth as they get a little more comfortable.
Someone who saves a sort of an energizer bunny to bring off the bench to give you a spark with the first substitution.
Well, yeah, I think it has to go together, for sure. And whatever that looks like. Do you need scoring off the bench? Do you want energy, spark? We talk in detail about that, and we have the analytics. And you can go to, there's 2 players you want to look at. How well do they play together? And then you can go to 3 player, and you can go to 4 player, and you can go to 5 player. Typically, though, it's not great data until you play 10 or 12 games, probably, to really, other than what your eye tells us in practice. Yes, energy, defending, changing the game, maybe continuing the momentum is something really important. You do want energy off the bench, though. That does seem to work wonders, but you also got to score. You can't just bring in everybody off the bench that doesn't, score it as well. Then you're going to be in all the energy and everything, all the momentum you've created just comes to a crashing halt pretty quick. So a lot of thought goes into it, honestly, like who plays well together. It may not always be your best 5 scorers or players. It may be roles. Some kids mentally are, enjoy coming off the bench, and there's a beauty to that as well. It's different, but that's okay too.
Coach, a change of subject question here. Obviously, Ross is coming into his first year on the men's side, making that jump up from mid-major to Big 12 like you did a couple years ago. Is there any kind of thing that you took with you from that first year after making the jump that helped you out that first year, or is there any?
I'm sure there was.
Maybe you passed on to Ross, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if I've been giving Ross a ton of advice on how to do the job. I think he's got a pretty good grip on it. I mean, obviously he's a fantastic coach. He's got a great staff. I've been to a handful of parts of practices since they've been here in the summer, and they're doing a great job. Their energy is phenomenal. The culture they've built really quickly is, it's lasting. It's going to mean something. You guys will see it when they continue to play and get better too. The biggest difference is obviously you're managing more people, time, commitments, media, those types of things. That is a different level without question. And then when you get into Big 12 play is the separator. That's, it's almost just flipped. And I think I've talked about this before. At the mid-major level, you're trying to survive the non-conference and put a really good non-conference, and you may only get to play like 1 or 2 Power 4 teams, and those mean everything to you. And then you get in your league, and we felt like that was our opportunity to stack wins. And, on our bad years, we might lose 3 league games or something like that. In a couple of years, we didn't lose a game in the conference, and then here it's kind of like you're trying to establish wins and victories and identities in the non-conference because what's coming when you get into the gauntlet of a Power 4 league. And so that's what's flipped. I think I've mentioned that to him maybe one time, and not that that's any great advice or something, deep thoughts, but that's when you're at the mid-major level, it's just those non-conference and conference are just flipped once you get your, program to that certain level. It's a gauntlet. It takes, and that Big 12 men's basketball that's a gauntlet every night.